Ghalibaf came out and said something. Ghalibaf is saying that Iran talks aim to implement MOU commitments. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said current meetings held by Iran were aimed at fulfilling commitments under the Memorandum of Understanding, including talks on implementing Article 13. So, yeah, we are following up the process of talks to implement Article 13. What was Article 13? The announcement at the end of the war by
Article
Pakistan.
13, isn't that NATO Article 13?
No. No. This is on the memorandum, the MOU between the Islamic Republic and the United States.
Oh, I'm
Article
sorry.
13 in the MOU, right? So I think that the 13 was about the blockade. We're following the process. Now, let me see. We are following the process of talks to implement Article 13 of the MOU in implementing the end of the war. Okay, no, that's Article 13 says that after the Memorandum of Understanding is signed and subject to the start of the continuation measures under paragraphs 1, 4, 5, and 10 and 11, the United States and Iran will begin negotiations on a final deal exclusively on the remaining paragraph. Okay. So that's that. And also, the Islamic Republic came out and said that the European leaders, the EU leaders, won't have honor of attending Khamenei's funeral. So we're getting closer and closer to Khamenei's funeral. So the Islamic Republic is saying that European countries will not have the honor of attending the funeral of Iran's slain supreme leader Ali Khamenei because they did not stand on the right side of history during the war. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismaili Baghai said on Tuesday. Wow. I'm sure they're very upset. So Al Arabiya is reporting that the Islamic Republic is going to get $3 billion in frozen assets soon, by the end of this week, while US and Iranian delegations are so yeah. What do you guys think about if we do get some confirmation that the Islamic Republic is getting some frozen assets? Would you guys be what are your, I have some thoughts that might not be very popular here. Um, but what do you think?
All right. I think I should like just go over the basic rules. Put a one for a topic. If you want to speak on the topic, put a two to respond to the topic. Everything you see will be seen. Everything you say will be seen on the internet. Everything you write on the chat board, the internal chat board. And to find the internal chat board, it's at the bottom right. Next to the respond on this, we have Richard.
I think the money's really a non-starter. If they actually get any money, let alone the $3 billion, it'll directly contradict what Trump said about the release of the funds being behavior-based at the sole discretion judgment of the U.S. They fired on 3 ships in the Strait. You know, they haven't changed their behavior in terms of sponsoring proxies. They've bombed other countries. So any release of money, A, makes no sense, and B, would directly contradict what Trump has announced already.
Um, I'll give you Monkey. Did you want to say something in defense of Trump, maybe? Because I have a Steelman for Trump. If you guys want it.
Well, we don't know where these funds are. Are these monies frozen in? Is this money frozen in Qatar, or is this money frozen by the U.S.? If this is money that Qatar froze, it would make a different calculus because then it would be like, okay, do you want the U.S. to sanction Qatar if Qatar releases IRGC money? I think they were mostly banking with a UAE, but I don't know if they had any funds in Qatar. So I'm thinking that's a possibility. I'm not sure, but this would be my question to you, Armin. Where is this money? Is this US? Is this money US froze or someone else?
So this is frozen assets that the Qatari banks are holding. Went from South Korea to Qatar, and now Qatar is holding them. And Qatar would not be releasing any of those funds without United States permission, even if the Qatari government gives permission to the Qatari banks to release those funds. That's not going to be good enough for the Qatari banks. The Qatari banks would want the United States to write them a written permission to make sure that there are not going to be any consequences to their banks for releasing those funds. So the Qatari banks are not just looking for permission from the Qatari government, they're going to be seeking permission from the US government as well, because they don't want their banks to be targeted by United States in any way or be like bad named or punished in any way. So if any frozen assets gets frozen released from the Qatari banks to the Islamic Republic, it would be with US blessing.
Okay, that makes sense. I would not support such a move at all. That would be my take on that. I mean, I don't think I'd have to elaborate a lot more. Richard said it well. This is supposed to be conditions based and performance based. Their performance have been aggressive and not in line with the MOU.
Okay, but here's my does anybody have a steelman? Because I could provide a steelman. Does anybody have a steelman for this, for President Trump on this? Again, I'm not saying I agree with this, but I could provide you a steelman.
I mean, we could say that we're going to do it and then just not do it. I mean, the second you write the written permission, it's done. Are there other reasons? I don't know. Maybe we're going to let them use the fund to see where it goes. Like sometimes the police will catch someone and release them and then follow their movements, see what they buy, who they talk to. I don't know. But that's as close as I can get to a steelman.
Okay, let me give you a steelman. So the Islamic Republic, obviously, you guys know, is not a monolith. The people, Ghalibaf is genuinely trying his best to give the Americans what they want because he doesn't want to die. So he is motivated, and President Trump and the White House is motivated not to knows that the whatever is happening in around the Strait of Hormuz is not something that Ghalibaf could completely have control over. There are some limitations to what Ghalibaf could do. And they want to keep support, like as they observing everything that Ghalibaf is doing very effectively, and they can see whether or not they're moving in the direction that US wants or not. So they're not going to be able to share this information publicly, but if the Americans have enough intelligence from inside Iran to know that Ghalibaf is doing what he's supposed to do, they don't want to punish him for things that other parts of the Islamic Republic are responsible for, because then he's not going to be motivated to continue working with the United States and basically be their insider man. And the money that is being released is money that Ghalibaf needs to be able to push back against IRGC. Like what the Americans are asking Ghalibaf to do, like hey, how do I do this? Like I need to bribe people, I need to buy people, I need to threaten people, I need to get people to be loyal to me, to be on my payroll. Like I can't just like wave a wand and just push back everybody. You need to put something in my hand. You need to give me some pocket money for me to go around and do all of these things, so you need to, Monkey, remember, I asked you something to do something earlier, and like I can't because I don't have the ability, right? This is what Ghalibaf is like. I can't do what you're asking me to do. So you need to actually give me something. Like you need to give me some spending money. You need to give me some bribing money. You need to give me some enforcement power, something here and there. So maybe the United States is eager to enable Ghalibaf because he has proven so far to be effective against the supreme leadership and IRGC, or maybe get them to agree with him or move along with his plan because of whatever money he had access to before or whatever leverage he had before. So the Americans are motivated to give him more leverage inside the Islamic Republic because he has proven to move things along the way so far very effectively internally. That might be. What do you think about that, Steelman?
How much money? If it is an extremely large number, then no. If it is a smaller number, then yes. What you're saying does make sense, to that he would need some petty cash to do this kind of thing. And the problem with hey, this is just a rogue operative thing, it would show, well, like, do we have to basically keep funding the IRGC to make them not attack? And if this is the only way the IRGC is not gonna. First of all, like they did have a lot of money. Like they have had a lot of money. They still have a lot of money because of the internal sales of oil and a lot of the internal commerce. So it's not like they're broke. So he does have funds that he can access, and we can't play this game where every time someone attacks, oh, that was just a rogue guy. Well, where is that rogue guy? How are we sure that we're going to get that? How are we sure that that rogue guy is not going to rogue out again? It becomes a vicious cycle in that every time they can just use this excuse that was that a rogue guy. It's not like if you can't control these rogues, we're at a position where the goal is not attainable because you're never going to control them.
Okay, so when you say they have a lot of money, who's they? Because it might not be Ghalibaf, and all of this money is spread across different segments of the Islamic Republic, different industries, different people. So, if you say they have a lot of money, the people who have the money might be actually the people who are against Ghalibaf, and Ghalibaf needs to have the upper hand. So it might be, like
that makes sense.
Yeah, it might be IRGC.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know where the money is. That's a great point, and that would lend credence to the "I need petty cash to make things happen."
Right. And somebody in our live chat is saying, wasn't that the excuse for Obama? And he or she's saying, so let's fund the terrorists so that the terrorists behave. Well, I wouldn't say so. That was what Obama's plan was. What you're saying, so fund terrorists so that they behave. That was Obama's plan, and it didn't work. Again, I'm not saying this is what's happening, but it could be. I'm saying it's not the plan is not fund them so that they behave. It's fund them to weaken each other, attack each other. So you're not funding them for with the wish, with the hope that maybe they will become good people and they behave normally. But you could put them against each other. Obama didn't do that. Obama didn't put them against each other. But President Trump might be using Ghalibaf, and I have a lot of good reasons to believe that Ghalibaf is the insider man for the United States inside the Islamic Republic against other segments of the Islamic Republic, right? So that's different from what Obama was doing.
All right. Next to respond on this topic, we have Richard.
Thank you. Nice steel man, Armin, but I hope you wouldn't mind a little rust. First point, your argument assumes that money is actually going to be able to influence the factions that are ordering these attacks to change their behavior, whether it's from Ghalibaf or other factions of the regime. I think the behavior of the factions in terms of ordering these attacks on the ships and whatnot, they've demonstrated pretty clearly they're not motivated by rational things like money. The factions that care about money and self-interest and want self-preservation are the ones Trump is already negotiating with. The only thing the other factions understand is strength and force, and that has to be done with things besides, or at least in addition to money. Second is the whole idea that Trump is negotiating with Ghalibaf to has been based on the premise that Ghalibaf can exercise control over these factions. They've actually given Ghalibaf some leeway to demonstrate that he can produce those results. All this is showing Trump is that the factions that are not controlled by Ghalibaf can't be controlled by Ghalibaf. They're wasting their time negotiating with him because he's too weak to control those factions. So there's not going to be the beneficial outcome, even with the internal infighting. I know it might weaken both sides, that's the point, but from Trump's perspective, he would rather prefer the Ghalibaf side dominate so he could actually get parts of his, the deal implemented practically. And third, in terms of what Sketch was saying, the whole "that wasn't me, that was this crazy guy over here" strategy is what the regime's been doing for the past 47 years in terms of using the proxies and avoiding direct responsibility for the attacks. It wouldn't be difficult to just assign blame to rogue factions of the regime the same way they do to Hezbollah, Kesh Teshabi, and their other proxies. So that plays right into their strategy. It rewards their bad behavior, it emboldens them, it makes them think they're getting concessions out of us, and it just encourages more attacks. That's what I would say to Trump if he's listening.
Okay, so let me write these down. So when it comes to Ghalibaf being able to have control or not, when you say that what we're witnessing is that he doesn't have control, I actually see a lot of signs that he is able to get more control than many people assumed he would be able to, right? Given that he represents a part of the Islamic Republic that historically had very limited power, it's actually surprising how much he has been able to do, which also leads me to think that he must have a lot of US backing for him to be able to do that. If the expectation was for Ghalibaf to be able to stop every single IRGC commander everywhere in Iran, stopping them from shooting a drone or a missile towards a commercial ship in southern Iran, like, well, that is like not even the Americans can do that, let alone Ghalibaf without any, well, like, how is he supposed to do that? So that is like, it's not like a black and white, like that is too high of an expectation of Ghalibaf. I think the fact that we saw that before the MOU was signed, the Office of the Supreme Leadership on behalf of Mujtaba came out and blessed the negotiations and the negotiating team. And then we had right before the MOU was signed, we had the IRGC leaders. We had Ghani, we had Musavi, we had Abdullahi come out and support the negotiators, calling them heroes, calling them um, the fighters in the battlefield of politics, just like the heroes in the battlefield of like the actual battlefield. Basically celebrating them showed that almost the most significant parts of the IRGC basically kissed the ring of Ghalibaf, except Vahidi, that we didn't see him, right? That shows that the IRGC was bending the knee to Ghalibaf. And then we also surprisingly saw Aghamiri, which is the spiritual spiritual leader of the Paydari camp, come out and endorse the negotiations. This to me suggested that there's a lot of force behind Ghalibaf pushing for his dominance. There's a lot of resistance to him, but that suggested that he's actually a lot more successful than a lot of people originally gave him credit for. Usually the camp of the Islamic Republic that has that role, just the pressure release valve, or the basically the scapegoat, or the part of the Islamic Republic that whitewashes what the Islamic Republic stands for, the suits part of the Islamic Republic. Usually that's part of the Islamic Republic that has the least amount of power and influence. But under Ghalibaf now it seems to have like the most, given that the supreme leadership is bending the knee, IRGC was bending the knee, and then we also had the spiritual leader of the Paydari camp bending the knee. That does. If I was the Americans, I would be impressed by that. And again, further on top of that, we don't have a lot of information regarding what else is Ghalibaf is doing for the Americans behind the scenes, right? So when President Trump comes out and says like they're giving us everything, and he's not sharing what he means, like a lot of that could be Ghalibaf basically selling out everybody within the Islamic Republic, and President Trump just not being able to talk about what that is. So just a few drones being shot at commercial ships in the Persian Gulf, in my opinion, is not enough to basically say Ghalibaf doesn't have control, right? With regards to the radicals being a trick that the regime uses just to act like it doesn't have control, and therefore, like, that is a clever strategy that people use during negotiations, by saying like, look, I'm trying to be flexible with you, but my hands are tied because of these crazy people that I have to appease. That is true, that's a clever negotiating tactic, and the Islamic Republic does use the Paydari camp people to negotiate that way. However, the fighting is real. Like, this is not like a fake infighting. It's not like a 5D chess move by these people. I mean, the 5D chess move is that they're using it to have leverage at the negotiating table by showing that they can't be as flexible as the Americans want them to. But it's not like it's all made up, right? This goes in deep within the body of the Islamic Republic. Like, all of this infighting is real, so it's not like they're making it up, right? They not having that level of control over everybody is something like, if it's fake, then they are faking it all over the streets, all over the media, and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Islamically minded Iranians are in on it, and they're all acting like this level of butthurt and drama and chaos. And I don't think all of that is fake, right? Given that we already saw all of this happening for years, until before we got to this point, right? Like, if this was supposed to be a plan, they had to make this plan 20 years ago. for a day like this, right? And they had to be acting this out for 20 years, right? Also, I didn't understand the first part of what you said regarding them being rational or not, because based on what I'm seeing, what the Islamic Republic, different segments of the Islamic Republic is doing, I think they're very rational. Like, I think people underestimate these people. Their actions look irrational because people don't understand what their goals are. But when it comes to different segments of the Islamic Republic, based on what they need to do for their survival, everybody is playing the most rational game. Like, I think the White House is playing the most rational game. The Israelis are playing the most rational, like doing exactly what they were supposed to do based on what they need to achieve. The Iranian people are doing the same thing, and the Islamic Republic, based on what they need to do to survive, they're actually being very rational, like very rational. Like, I understand every single decision that they're making. If you understand how everything works and everything is connected and what will increase their chances to survive. But I don't know what were you saying regarding them being rational, but can you clarify that point?
I was just saying that basically the argument you make about the beneficial effect of releasing the frozen funds to Ghalibaf's influence in the regime assumes that he'll be able to use that money to gain the influence from the Paydari camp. What I wanted to argue as a countermeasure is that the factions that Ghalibaf needs to assert control over don't necessarily want anything rational like money. They've demonstrated that they're more committed to ideology, honor, other kinds of nonsense, and the argument assumes that you'll be able to pay them off and to get calm. A may not work because of their motivations, and B, at the very least, you're rewarding bad behavior. You're giving them what appears to be a concession in response to their aggression, so you're emboldening them and encouraging further attacks.
So there's different, if you have the money, there's multiple things you could do. First of all, a lot of them are motivated by money. Like, we saw mosques and Hosseinias inside Iran that were attacking the MOU, and then something switched, and overnight they came out and defended it, right? There are different segments of the IRGC that are supporting different mosques and different Hosseinias. And once they get the orders from the top down that here's the new narrative, they switch, like people, a lot of Iranians make fun of them. They like show what they were, what they were saying, and their speeches were just 1 week, and the week later it switches, right? So you can see that they're just, many of them are trying to control the narrative in the streets in Iran based on the orders that they're getting from whoever is giving them the funding and supporting that specific mosque or Hosseini from the top, like what's their marching order, what is the new narrative that we need to be supporting. It's interesting because sometimes you could see 5 or 6 of them that were saying something, they all switch at the same time to something else, which shows that, like, when a lot of time you see them and they look like they're so like passionate and zealous about something, and then they become so passionate about a position that is the exact opposite, and they all switch at the same time, where it becomes very obvious that they're getting their orders from. And again, there are different segments. So for example, some mosques and Hosseinias get their orders from this part of the IRGC. Some of them get their orders from a different part of the IRGC. Some of them get their orders from Ghalibaf. He has his own network as well. Some people get their orders from the office of the supreme leadership, right? So different mosques are different to loyal to different segments of the Islamic Republic. We also have mosques and Hosseinias who are not even connected to the government, and they're private and independent. And we saw this Muharram for Ashura, some of them even coming out and doing ritual, like doing what is it called, processions against the regime. So we saw mosque and Hosseinias, for example, that stopped talking about Hussein and kept on singing stuff that was clearly, obviously about the massacre in early January. So we saw that switch as well. Some in some of the private, not government affiliated mosques and Hosseinias, people were coming out, and instead of mourning the death of Hussein, they were mourning the death of the Iranian people in early January. So that's like, so there's a diverse set of religious people with different motivations and different sources of funding. But if you have the money, you deal with different people with different in different ways, right? So with some of these centers, like religious centers, you pay them money and you tell them what to say, and they say it. With some of them, you threaten them, and they will stop saying what they're not supposed to say because they respond better to threat. With some of them, you do a combination of threats and rewards, right? With the people, with the people who are extremely, not motivated by this world, and they don't respond to, to threats as well, there are strategies with that as well. You either work on, instead of directly working on them, you work on the people that they look up to and work, change their narrative, and they slowly change their narrative accordingly. With the ones that you cannot change at all, you create a fake opposition. So if you have money, you obviously, that you're not going to be able to change everyone to your side. So you create a fake opposition. You build people, mullahs or influencers, who are attacking the MOU and attacking Ghalibaf, who might be like who might be funded by Ghalibaf. They're attacking Ghalibaf, but they're funded by Ghalibaf, and you just try to make sure that you gather the most anti-Ghalibaf people under people who are also controlled by Ghalibaf, so that you could actually control it and divert it in a way that wouldn't harm the MOU in a significant way. So you try to capture that audience, right? So it's not just as simple as like, oh, I have money, here's some money, change your opinion. There are many ways to go about controlling and monitoring and diverting the force of the anti-Ghalibaf, anti-MOU people in a direction that would not hurt Ghalibaf's position. And there are people within the Islamic Republic who are experts at that, and they have 47 years of practicing exactly that, and they know what they're doing. And if you have billions of dollars in your pocket, you know exactly what to do to reduce the effectiveness of these types of people when it comes to being threat to Ghalibaf. Like, but if you have the money, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. I appreciate the analysis. Thank you.
No worries. Okay.
Speak on this because I think there was a miscommunication here because he's saying, oh, the guy launching the missiles isn't a rational actor. Like there's a confusion between the boots and the streets. That commander is not a Paydari. That's a commander. That's a different kind. Like he may align with certain segments, certain mosques, but it's not. It wouldn't be correct to think that the Paydaris and the boots are the same people. Am I correct in this?
So yeah, so if somebody is working within the IRGC, like it's a foot soldier, like it's part of the launcher boys, right? So when we say the boots, we're talking about the leader of the IRGC, right? But like a soldier, like a low-ranking soldier that is supposed to go into a rocket launcher and launch a rocket, personally, he might there's he might be motivated by many different things. Like there's diversity in them, right? Some of them are like just there to collect a paycheck. Some of them are there as part of the IRGC, and they're extremely loyal to the supreme leader and nothing else. Some of them are extremely loyal to their own local spiritual leader at their mosque, right? Some of them are extremely loyal to their military commander. They think that their immediate commander above them is their god, right? And that's the only thing they know. Some of them have no fucking idea what they're doing, and they're just trying to live every day, day by day, and they just are doing what they're told to do, right? So it's complex, right? There's a Venn diagram that makes them all understand, like, okay, we're for the Islamic Republic, you know, bless the supreme leader, death to America, death to Israel. Those are the basics. Those are the surface level that you're like they're all on the same page on these basics. But when it comes to a deeper understanding of what motivates you and what drives you to do what you do, there's a lot of variety among these people. And I wouldn't be surprised if for many of them, after the surface level of, okay, fine, death to America, death to Israel, bless the supreme leader, long live the Islamic Republic. Beyond that, I wouldn't be surprised if like more than 80% of them are mostly motivated by just collecting a stable paycheck.
I understand that. I like it takes a lot to hit that button and launch a bunch of drones. Like you got to be like really on, like either under orders or a really, really like not caring what anybody above you says. This is what I'm doing because I believe it's right. So I do understand that there's some mosques and some commanders that are not necessarily aligned with Ghalibaf. But I just wanted to make that distinction. Like the guy pressing the button doesn't necessarily uh, there's not necessarily a direct line to the Paydari, to the streets, but there are divisions within the IRGC.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.